Well, before we go any farther, I got to tell you about something. You know, when you read the Bible, usually, almost always, what you need to gather from it, you're going to see in, the English translations. But once in a while, there is something to be found that you're not going to see unless you, know Hebrew. And by the way, I don't know Hebrew, but I study and read, and people who do. And they put Moses in, what it says here is they put him in a basket. Well, the Hebrew word for basket, well, in this instance, the word that is translated basket, it doesn't actually mean basket. The word is, they put him in an ark. And, well, that's significant because it's actually the only other place in the Old Testament where that Hebrew word ark is used, other than, of course, the ark, Noah and the ark. And what is God doing by drawing attention to the ark? It's happening again. That's what's going on. It's happening again, as in the scriptures, what you have from beginning to end is the same story repeating itself over and over again. What is this story, you ask? It's the story of God's salvation in the midst of God's judgment. This is the story that's played out over and over again. And of course, it starts in the story of the ark, where God's judgment comes in a mighty way. The flood comes, and all are killed except for Noah and his family. Their salvation is in the midst of judgment. And you keep reading the Bible. Sodom and Gomorrah, that's another example, obviously, where because of their wickedness, God rains down fire from heaven. But Lot and his family are preserved. They're saved. God's salvation in the midst of God's judgment. What happens when the people of Israel get to Jericho? The city is destroyed at God's command. But who is saved? The prostitute Rahab and her family. Because in faith, they join themselves to God's people. Salvation in the midst of God's judgment. And of course, when we get to the New Testament, well, that's the whole story. Jesus told us. He connected it all. He said, as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man. As it was in the days of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, so will it be in the day of the Son of Man. As in, people were eating and drinking, giving and taking in marriage, meaning that they were carrying on in life. People were living life to the fullest as if everything here is the only things to live for. People were living life, and the judgment of God came and killed them all, and they weren't ready. So it will be in the day of the Son of Man, as in when Jesus returns, there will be salvation of God in the midst of great and dreadful judgment of God. That's the story of the whole Bible. And here, well, they're drawing attention to it, and they're saying it's going to happen again. And we're going to keep reading the book of Exodus, and it's going to happen in a mighty way, first with the Passover, salvation in the midst of judgment, and then the big one, the Red Sea. God's people will be saved through the water. They'll be saved through the water, and judgment will come with that water in the same way. And we're going to see it real soon. The name Moses means drawn up out of the water. Now, today, after this service, we have a baptism service. There's going to be a handful of people getting baptized. And it means something. Being drawn up from the water, it means something. It's pointing to that same story, that great truth of God's salvation in the midst of judgment. This is my hope. Being cleansed through the gospel. Going under and coming up again. Jesus was buried and he rose from the dead. And just like water will clean dirt, this water represents my sins that have been washed away. We're saved through water in this sense. Just as the story plays out in Exodus. God is doing it again. Salvation in the midst of judgment.